Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the New Times program and, of course, Nice Radio. And, of course, we are also streaming live on the New Democratic Party's social media platforms. And as always, with us on a Monday, we're joined by the president and leader of the New Democratic Party, Dr. the Honorable Godwin Friday. Dr. Friday, good day and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Colin, and good afternoon to all our friends who are listening and participating near and far. For those of you who are in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we wish you a wonderful Monday morning, beginning of the week, of the work week anyway. And we thank you for joining us, those of you all the way up in Fancy, in the north, Ashton, Union Island in the south, and places in between. And for those people who are abroad in our diaspora, in North America, in Europe, and the rest of the Caribbean, thank you so much for being a part of the program. We know you could be doing other things, but you've chosen to be here, and we are grateful for that because there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be done in our beloved St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And Colin, I heard you talking about some of it this morning, and of course others have been talking about them during my casual conversation with so many people that I meet all the time across our country. But Colin, we have this morning, first of all, let me just say this is a quick roundup about some of the things that I've been doing, because in the last couple of weeks I've been very busy. I've been abroad for a couple of occasions, to the UK for a conference I reported on here. And last week, I was in Trinidad for a meeting of public accounts committees, that is the other leaders of opposition who generally chair these committees from other countries in the region, Commonwealth countries, were present, other members from government representatives. There were three persons that went here from St. Vincent, the deputy clerk, Mrs. Simone Huggins, Williams Huggins, and then we had, of course, Curtis King went representing the government side, the Honorable Curtis King, but he left early, and myself as the chair of the committee and as a leader of the opposition. And so it was a wonderful gathering. I had some, of course, you're never quite sure what to expect in a meeting of this sort, but it was put on by the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association of the UK and the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to say, Colin, the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, the staff and all the support mechanisms that were in place was absolutely top notch. You cannot fault them. They did a wonderful job of welcoming us there, of treating us well, and making sure that the conference was done in a professional way in facilities that were of the very highest standard. And I want to commend them and to thank them for their hospitality and for their professionalism in hosting this very important workshop on public accounts committees. We've heard a lot to talk about that here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines from the government side. They use that to try to diminish our work in the opposition. But of course, we know what the history and the backdrop of that. I'm always keen to learn about the functioning of public accounts committee, the way in which we here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines ought to make them function without obstacles, without pretense on the part of the other side as to wanting to have them and then putting obstacles in the way. But I was very, very heartened to see the kind of support and encouragement that we received. I mean, we're not the only ones who have difficulty with these committees working. St. Lucia and Grenada, and we have made a kind of agreement amongst us, the representatives from those countries, to get the support from the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association to make sure that we have what it takes to get these committees up and running, and that any obstacles that are put in the way here, that they are brought to the fore so that they are dealt with, not just as a local problem, but as a problem for the functioning of of our democracy in the Commonwealth. There must be best practices, and some of the countries in the region, Jamaica, Trinidad, Belize, they have been doing having these committees working at various levels. But we have to make sure that the standards that are set for the Commonwealth, and certainly the ones for the Caribbean, that they are maintained throughout, and that wherever there are obstacles, and I've heard of obstacles in various other countries that are put in the way of these committees to try to prevent them from doing their work. And we know of the obstacles here when the government essentially shut down the committee and said that there were no rules by which we could proceed. But when you just tried to call a committee together some years ago, I was present, and the objections were raised by the government side to say there are no rules by which they can go, and the meeting can't go ahead, and that they would get rules and put them in place and pass them in the parliament. That was never done. All talk. But the point is now that we, the speaker, as I mentioned some time ago, and in the House, the speaker has taken an interest in it herself, for various reasons, and has written to me and said that as far as she's concerned, there are no obstacles in the way of having these meetings, and that the rules can be, whatever rules there are, we can apply. So I am going to take that as a go-ahead, that this is not going to be any obstacles in the party government. We'll see, but we will benefit further from our interactions with the colleagues at whom I met in Trinidad last week, and continuing to reach out to our UK brethren and sistren to try and get more and more support for the work that we do here, and certainly to collaborate as well with my colleagues in St. Lucia and in Grenada, where there's been some problems, some difficulties there with the committees working. And this is something that is very, very important. That's why I spent it's an entire week we spent there. And I stayed and I spent the time and I engaged in the discussion to try to make sure that we have get the best benefit from it so that we can do the work here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Accountability, as you know, Colin, is something, whether we do it in the Public Accounts Committee, we do it in the Parliament, accountability is something that we in the New Democratic Party take very seriously. We ran a campaign on this publicly, pointing out the failings of this government, the failure to follow the rules, the laws, the regulations, time and again, over and over. They just simply disregard them, as if to say, our intentions are good and how we get there shouldn't matter to anybody. Well, that is not how our democracy is designed to function, because when you have the rule of individual whim and fancy, things go very wrong, because nobody is perfect. Over generations, centuries, the practices that we have here have come down from the British Parliament and their procedures. Some of those things we have codified into our laws here. We can change things to make them more specific to our circumstances, but until we do so, we have the laws, we have the regulations. I call them the guardrails by which we are supposed to manage the finances of this country, and we should stick to them, because when we don't, we get into problems. You want me to tell you what the big problem is? One is that you don't know how money is spent. As you know, that there is this problem still of the overdraft account, where the government, the bank says that there's a certain amount, then the accountant general says there is a different amount. So there's a discrepancy between what is spent, used in the overdraft accounts. And we raised this a couple of years ago. It continues to be a problem because they have not addressed it, trying to dismiss it as some sort of clerical error. Well, Colin, over the course of 6, 7, 8 years, we have accumulated the amount every year and added them all up from 2015 up to 2022. And I think there's something like $150 million that are unaccounted for. Now, this is all part of the failure of this government to follow the financial regulations. We have the problems that we've had over the years with special warrants which we have raised over and over again. Special warrants allow the government to spend money that they have not budgeted for, but they have to bring it to Parliament within a certain time frame, within 6 months. They seem to think that they could bring it anytime they want, and that simply they exceed the limit as to how much they can borrow or they can use under those regulations, under those rules, and the time frame in which they're supposed to bring them to the Parliament to get the stamp of approval. Because any money that is spent by the government has to be authorized by Parliament. You can't just go out and say, oh, well, we need to get this done, so therefore we're going to spend it, and we ain't telling the Parliament nothing. We say yes in our rules. If you budget for something, you didn't budget for something, you have some emergency that come up, you can spend it, but you got to come back to Parliament and say, this is how much I spent and this is why I spent it, and get it regularized within the financial accountability mechanisms that we have in our Constitution, that we have in our Finance Administration Act, and that we have in our Audit Act. Those are the principal legislation that we use to guide our finances. And we know that this government, they have not been doing so. You know, in Parliament, we voted a certain amount of money annually to say that you could use for overdraft, and they exceed this amount that Parliament says this is the amount that you can use, you can borrow through an overdraft facility to run the government. You know, when money, you budget for something else, you ain't getting money yet, you can use the overdraft for that. But when the money come in, you're supposed to put it back. You don't just use the overdraft as though it is some additional financing that the government has, because that was never authorized by Parliament. Parliament and the laws say, that is the Finance Administration Act says that when this is to basically fill in for shortfalls, temporary shortfalls, and then you put the money back in so that at the end of the year, everything is regularized. They have been abusing that terribly, you know? So all of these things tell us that when we don't follow those guidelines, that abuses take place. And the main cost of that is that it costs us more in terms of our national debt, in terms of the cost of interest payments, and in wastage, and in all kinds of things that you cannot account for. When you can't account for it, then you don't know what has happened to the money. And that is where we need to tighten up. That is what we have been calling on governments over and over again, Public Accounts Committee or no Public Accounts Committee, to be accountable to the people for these things, for our money, for taxpayers' money, for the way it's spent and how it's spent, to tell us where it's spent, and all of those things. And that is something that they have been failing in over and over and over again. And they continue to do so, to tell us we must trust them because of their good intentions. I mean, the airport, for example, we don't even know what the cost of the airport is, because they have never produced, that is the Argyle International Airport, they have never produced a proper financial statement to say that this is the cost. They have never done an audited statement of the airport to say this is the cost is, and this is why we feel that we have been justified in building it in the manner that we did. None of that. All they say is just trust us. You know, we know what we're doing. We build the airport. What the hell you want? You know, that sort of thing. And then, you know, that is not acceptable, because when you have $1.6 billion being spent there, there's so much opportunity there for wastage. There's so much risk, I should say, not opportunity, but danger of wastage, of inefficiency, of corruption. All these things have to be guarded against in every major project of that type. And then at the end of it, there has to be an accounting and presented and said that this is what, and not the government telling us that this is how we do it. You have to get somebody independent, the director of audit, or if the director of audit doesn't have the means, that she says, listen, this is important, let's hire somebody to do a proper audit of this major project and financial outlay that the people of this country have made for this project. And so that we could account for it, but we have had none of that. All they say is the airport look pretty. We build it, so you should thank us. And where the money went, it's not your business, because as we get it in the first place. But as we paying it back. That money didn't come to Parliament initially when they were building it. But now that it has become part of the debt, it has been brought to Parliament now as part of the public debt. So we are all paying it. So if we're paying it, we therefore need to have proper accounting for it. But so that is what um, I was doing in Trinidad, Colin, to deal with the Public Accounts Committee and trade scrutiny. That is to say that trade negotiations and so forth, the persons there who were saying this is how we interrogate those kinds of agreements to make sure that they're in the best interest of the people, to see who is going to who will win and who will lose out, and what mechanism there will be in place to assist those persons who are on the short end of it. But this is something, Colin, that we will continue and we will follow up on. Of course, I am so happy to say that over the last weekend on Saturday, we had a wonderful event. And it's just the beginning. So I know some people say, oh, we didn't hear about it, we didn't know, and so forth, otherwise we were there. This is true. But what we did on Saturday, Colin, at the Nutrition Hard Court in Old Montrose, is that we launched the National Athletes Development Program of the New Democratic Party. This is our plan for assisting our elite, our outstanding athletes, and our emerging athletes, so that people know that when they have the talent and they put in the work, that there is some support that is guaranteed to them by the state once you meet a certain standard. That standard, or the standards that we will have, will be set in conjunction with the various sporting disciplines. For example, in athletics, we can't just out of the top of our head say, well, this is an outstanding accomplishment or whatever. It is proper for us to have consultations with those organizations, the heads of those organizations, and individuals who are involved in those sporting disciplines, so that they could guide in the formulation of the standards for the development of this policy. But what we did on Saturday, yes, there was a five-a-side football game as well, a tournament that was organized to show the young people that this is something that we are very much interested in, that we want to give them opportunities to excel. And then the announcement was made by our colleague, the Honorable Fitz Bramble, member for East Kingstown, as the Shadow Minister for Sports. And he outlined the parameters of our program, our National Athletes Development Program, to assist emerging athletes, but more importantly, our elite athletes. We know we had that embarrassing situation with Shafiqua Maloney not so long ago. And this is something that should never really happen. We should be tracking and knowing where our athletes are and how they are performing. And even if they don't reach out to the state in this situation, I don't know what was done there, but quite clearly, this is somebody who should have been, assisted much earlier in her development, and so that she doesn't have to be going from pillar to post to try to find a way to develop herself and to excel. And when that happens, all of us benefit. This is not just for an individual. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you have an athlete who achieved outstanding accomplishments. They give us more recognition and good name than anything that any politician can do.
That's true.
And so it's important for us that we provide that for our own self-interest, but I think more so, we have to say that if you have an athlete of outstanding ability, we're a small country, these jewels are very few and far between, especially now that we don't have the proper mechanisms in place to create them, to build them, to generate them. This is something that we should take great pride in and provide the assistance from as early as possible to ensure that they do the best they can. So this program, Colin, the intention of it is this: when we establish a national athletes development program, athletes who achieve a certain standard within their particular discipline, let's say it's athletics or in cricket or in football, in swimming or netball, all the disciplines, they will qualify for support from the state automatically once you meet the standard. You don't have to go and make an individual case for yourself. You don't have to go, and that is not to say that you will not still need assistance from others, because we know how expensive these sports are, especially when you are at the elite level. So you would get sponsorship and so forth. But the state has a role to play in ensuring that you have the basics needed to be able to continue your training, to get your supplements, to get your equipment, to all these things necessary to get those athletes in a readiness to compete, so that they don't have to be distracted by whether they have money to get their visa or to get their medical treatment, or their anything, their travel to go to compete. These are things that we should be, as a state, assisting with. And the New Democratic Party will implement that program, and it will provide not just the assistance for those who are here now, but it gives the young people something to shoot for, because they say, well, listen, if now I know that if I apply myself, I take care of my body, I do the training, exercise the discipline necessary to be able to reach that standard, then I will be assisted. I have that guarantee of assistance. I don't have to go and be nice to a politician. I don't have to go, my mother and my father or somebody don't have to go and beg around the place for assistance. Others will come on board, I am certain of it. The private sector will help and so forth for persons who they see are doing their very best and are lifting St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But the government, the state, all of us together have a role to play in ensuring that those athletes get what they need to be able to compete once they have demonstrated that they have attained that level, that standard that we will set with the various disciplines to decide what is reasonable. It can't be so high that nobody gets it. It can't be so low that anybody in high school qualifies, because then it won't be sustainable. But generally speaking, that is something that is lacking now. The ULP, they talked about it all the way back in 2005. They said they had a national sports plan of some sort. In 2015, they talk about it as well in the manifesto. And they talk that they're going to do this, they're going to do it, but they did not deliver for the young people. And so now you still have to go and make your individual case, and then feel beholden to whoever provides you some assistance. Take, for example, when somebody goes and writes CAPE, and they get their outstanding achievement at academics and so forth. It don't matter who you are. Once you reach a standard, you get the assistance, you get a scholarship, you get a bursary and so on from government. And a lot of funds are expended in that regard. And it's a similar thing here. An athlete, who reaches a certain standard that we acknowledge as an outstanding achievement in a similar way, will qualify and will automatically get the assistance of the state. All of those things will the mechanics of it will all be worked out in time in conjunction with the associations. I don't think it's appropriate for us to go and present a final thing without having had this broad-based consultation with the various disciplines. And I'm looking forward to that. People have already reached out to me, Colin. They have already asked why haven't we been consulted? Why? I said, well, we're just starting. I'm announcing it now for that very reason, to get people interested and to say, well, we want to be a part of shaping what this is going to be, because this sounds very exciting. This is something that's going to help our young people. And we can't wait for it to happen. And certainly I can't either. And I want to thank those young people who came out on Saturday, all the people who came there. And it was a wonderful event. I mean, I really enjoyed it, for the time that it took to put it together, and for people to be there. And we will do it again. But the important thing was not just the fun and games that we had, but the fact that we have made this very important initiative that we as a party, the New Democratic Party, have said this is a policy of our party, this is a plank. It's in keeping with our consistent with our approach to the youth pledge that we made to our young people recently for the youth rally we had at Camden Park in November last year. And all that we've been talking about, creating jobs and opportunities for young people, all of this is part of that. And of course, it fits in, Colin, as well. It's consistent with our approach to say that we have, as the four planks of our economy, the pillars are agriculture, tourism, the blue economy, and the new economy. The new economy includes what people will call, sports, arts, and entertainment, the arts and craft, the creatives, also information technology, all those things, many of those things that we never really considered as economic activity. We are going to say, well, no, let's treat them as such, because they're people who devote their lives to this, and they must be protected and assisted to be able to make a living from it, and we will do our best to do so. So this initiative here also helps to further our plan for developing that pillar, the new economy, with sports being an important part in terms of our athletes getting opportunities to compete, our cricketers or footballers having opportunities to play professionally, and also for sports tourism, for bringing people here to compete in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I think this is an exciting initiative. It is one that is well overdue. And the ULP, I'm sure they're going to go and scramble now to say that, oh, we said this and we said that, and then try to teeth in my ideas and all that stuff. Yeah. But they've had 22 years going on, 23 years, and they have not delivered anything for the people. And this is something that we have initiated, and we will follow through on it, because promises mean something. This is one of their broken promises again. They've broken their promises over and over again to the young people of this country. And whenever they're caught out and they're called out on it, they scramble to go and say that, look what we're doing here, look what we're doing there. So these are things, Colin, that I'm very excited about, and we will do so. So that's what we were up to last Saturday. That's what I've been up to over the past couple of weeks.
All right. Still, and of course, the NDP continues to put in plans, a lot of these plans and policies. It's interesting to hear the NDP under your leadership lay out strategically what those plans and policies are. Obviously, over the weekend, and even before the weekend, the NDP has been spearheading a lot of the conversation as it relates to the economy, as it relates to agriculture, the blue economy, and what's not. The NDP has been very on point in hitting these issues, because right now there's a lot of the talk with surrounding Sanders and CELAC, yeah. And a lot of the farmers, a lot of the fisher folk are seeming the ones who are feeling slighted right now.
Yeah.
Couple persons called this morning already wanting to raise the issue surrounding those, but I wanted to let you be the lead on that conversation as it relates to CELAC, the economy, and agriculture, fisheries, the blue economy. How are Vincentians benefiting? Where should Vincentians see the benefit? And in all of this, where is the lack of support from this government?
Well, Colin, quite naturally, you can see where our focus is. My approach is bottom up. That is to people first. Mm-hmm. Development is about people, whether it's in the program that we announced last Saturday for the development of people in sports, the development of people in agriculture, in fisheries, the blue economy. All of these are pillars of our economic development, but they don't happen by themselves. And we can't be spectators in our own development. We have to be doing it ourselves. Government has a responsibility to involve the people in the development process, not just say, I'm doing it for you. Mm-hmm. You can't do it for me and I am on the sideline. What you're going to do, just give people a handout, who you pick and choose. People have to be involved in the process. I said that on this program last week. You cannot leave the people aside and say, oh, they ain't ready yet. You got to bring somebody from somewhere else to do it. How they get ready if you don't get them ready, if you don't help them to get ready, if you don't tell them what they need to do to get ready? The government has a responsibility to do that. That is the basis of our development, to bring our people into the fold. But here what we see, this is what is so concerning and it's so disappointing to so many people. People look forward to the development of the resort at Buckerman. They talked about it from years ago when you had, what's his name there? Ames. said that he was a hotelier and so on. Turned out to be a big scam. The whole thing flopped, and the government very quietly just let it sit there for a while. So now Sandals has come, and they have redeveloped the facility and the location, and they have built what appears to be a top-notch resort. That is their standard throughout the region. Of course, there are complaints, naturally and justifiably, about the spin-offs, because we want to make sure that we, when I say we, I mean the people of the country, benefit as much as possible from these developments, whether it is this particular hotel development or one elsewhere in the country to come, or the ones that are existing now. We are always engaged in that process of finding opportunities for our people. And so when you hear from the outset that this major development has come, there is employment. I hear the Prime Minister talk about this. Somebody said at a press conference this morning about 500 and something jobs and so forth. But that's a start. But what about the service providers? What about the linkages, backward linkages to the economy, to the agriculture, and to the fishing industry? And why is it that you have in this major entity, a company comes in, they build the resort? We say that is something that we didn't have the capacity to do because we don't have the capital. No local developer has that capital. And also they have the marketing that Sanders is doing. But, you know, things like supplying to them. I hear the agriculture that Reno is going to be buying and then selling to Sanders. Is that the plan? And that Rainforest is going to be buying seafood and selling to Sanders. That is the plan. So there is a middleman in between. And all of them come from somewhere else. Not to say that, I mean, Caribbean people, yes, we want to have as many involved as possible. But we also have to be giving opportunities to our people. We've had people here who were selling and exporting seafood before Rainforest came. Where are they now? They all seem to have either died or become second fiddle. We've had marketing board. We have had fisheries in Kingstown, the fish market that's been buying and selling. You have cooperatives in the country and so forth. What role is there for them? Why are they just being sort of left to say, listen, do what you can, fend for yourself, rather than saying, let us start with this and see how we can use them to be able to get the products that the developer needs? Because yes, they want to get the best product at the best price. That is the negotiation process. But we have to be able to get our people ready to engage in that negotiation. Well, not just say, you know, sell to this other third party. Who is going to be, what price are they going to get? The middleman always has to get a cut. Why is it not the marketing board? Why is not the fisheries cooperatives and so forth that we have here? Those are relevant questions to ask. And we haven't heard any discussions about it from the government. They don't even acknowledge it. They just say, oh, the fisherman and them getting the price. They don't care who they sell to. Well, the problem is that they've not been getting the price. I know from the experience that we have seen in the Grenadines, when one of the exporters is knocked out of the running, the purchasing, then the price becomes very problematic, very low, and up and down. So that is where the dilemma comes in, and people are quite right, especially the fisher folk and the co-ops, to ask the question as to why were we not prepared in advance to deal with this, and why is it that we have to go through as farmers? Why do the farmers have to go through Renault, a company that came here to mine rocks up at North Leeward? You know, why is it that this major development, you have that all of the major players, the three main players, that is the supplier of seafood, the supplier of agricultural produce, and the developer themselves, none of them come from here? That is a very big question that you must ask. Are our people so incompetent or so lacking in initiative that we can't find a way to say, okay, let's give them the opportunity first? Why is it that you have the greenhouse park up at Montreal, which could have been developed in advance to say, well, listen, here we have this built. Why not get some of the farmers in there and say, listen, guys, this is a place now you could plant lettuce and tomatoes. You could plant, cabbage and various things that you could sell to the hotel industry, to the tourism sector. Why keep it all to the government and have it there now where it's falling apart? It looks well, it's not looked, it's bloody well abandoned. It's locked up, nobody's using it, it's not productive. And that could have been the farmers. They could have said, okay, fine, this is supposed to be the cutting edge of our farming industry. This is where the European Union gave us $37 million, say, diversify your agricultural sector, get into create, facilities to rear animals and have an abattoir to slaughter animals here rather than shipping them all off to Grenada, and then have the greenhouses there and elsewhere that will be made available to farmers, so that you say, okay, fine, sure, if you say that they don't know how to do it, well, teach them how to do it. You have irrigation, you have enclosed facilities, you have controlled environment in which you can grow more productively. These are things that they simply they drop the ball on it and they will scramble now to say that they're doing this. I hear the Minister of Agriculture say, oh, the World Bank giving them money now to build more greenhouses. How can you have any confidence that after the mess that they made at Montreal with the money they got from the European Union, that they're going to do any better with the money they get from the World Bank? The only way you can guarantee that that is going to be done properly is if you get a new government in place. The World Bank gives the money to the country, not to the government. So we will have that money in order to do what we are saying that should be done. And we will do it because it's to empower farmers. James Mitchell wrote the template for this when he came into office back in 1984, when he said that the way in which to develop our country is to empower our farmers. And it got larger states, and rather than government saying, let government run it and bring people into work as laborers, they said, no, cut them up, give people the land, let them own it. Let them develop it themselves. Let them add to it. Let them put the sweat and the labor in it because they know everything that they get back is theirs. That is what should be done. That is the model that I will follow. It will empower farmers. It will empower fishers, because that is how we develop our country, by relying on our people. Not just government saying that we are bigger and better than everybody else. If you want to join it, the parade, then it's up to you. If you don't come, we're going to find somebody else to play, which is what they're doing now. They're bringing other people from outside to play because they feel that the people here, the local people here, whether it's businesses or ordinary farmers or fisher folk, that they're not up to the task. So why the hell are you in government? Who is it that you're governing for if you have such contempt for the people of this country? Who are you governing for? They are in a bubble. They just want to have things that look nice, that they could go and brag to the international community. Well, I want to be able to satisfy the people of this country here. I want to be able to go and meet somebody in a village that I go and walk and talk to, and I don't have to run and hide from them like they're doing now because they have not delivered for the people. I want to be able to hold my head up and say, this is what we have done, and this is what we will continue to do for you.
What sort of incentives or lack thereof has this ULP administration put in place for local business operators as compared to foreign investors?
Very, very little. Very little. In fact, sometimes they give the foreign, the external entities concessions that allow them to come and outcompete the local producers here. Rainforest, for example, is going to be importing food. The hotel is going to have concessions to import food stuff. I don't know what arrangement they have made because they haven't told us what those concessions are, except that the Minister of Finance has said that the concessions you used to get with the building, now they're going to have concessions with food and beverage and so forth. Are those going to come through Rainforest? Is that going to be Rainforest? Are they going to be importing the seafood that they're going to be selling to Sandals, or are they going to be giving priority to the local producers here? Or are they going to say that the local fisher folk, they're charging $5 and $6 a pound, and that's too much, and so they could get it somewhere else cheaper? I don't know. And these are things we have to guard against, because if we do that, then it means that we are basically we are lowering we are making it so that our people have to compete against the lowest price or factors anywhere they exist, when in fact we should be finding ways in which we can prop up our local producers, whether they're farmers or fisherfolk, and put them in a position that they can sell to these entities in a competitive way. Good quality stuff, reliable supply at a good price. Who is helping those farmers and fisherfolk to meet those criteria? Not the government. They are quite prepared to let somebody else do it and say to the local producers here, if you're not ready, well, that's your business. We will get it somewhere else. That's essentially what they've said to the local private sector. The Minister of Finance said that in his budget address, that if they ain't ready, then other people will come. They will form partnership with other people to do it. Well, that is not development. That is them just serving their own interests. That is them trying to create shiny objects for people to look at and ask people to reward them for it. The people of this country now realize that, in fact, there's a lot of talk from this government, a lot of talk, but people are simply not seeing the benefit of all the development that they say they are bringing. All the development, they say they have big conference. Oh, if it wasn't for the airport, you couldn't have had the conference and so forth. Well, tell me, what is the ultimate benefit of that? The airport should be exporting and importing stuff, or bringing in machinery, exporting goods. Same with the port. That is where the real benefit is, not a one-off conference that you have from time to time. I mean, CELAC is something that they do annually. Every year they go to the country that has it, and they basically hand over to the next country that will be the presidency. They did that in Argentina the year before. They do it here now. They're going to do it whichever country is the presidency now. They will do it from there as well. That is routine. That is normal. The fact that they do it here in St. Vincent is just because you say, well, we smaller, we never been able to do this thing before and so forth. But it is expected that that's what will happen at the end of a CELAC presidency.
There are many talks, many questions being raised, concerns as what were the real benefits for the average Vincentian on the ground coming out of this summit?
The summit
and the staging of the CELAC summit.
Well, nothing really. I mean, the hotels, yes, they got some business for the one night or two from the people who come here and so forth, but it's more inconvenience than anything for most people. 2 days of school canceled. They say it wasn't canceled, but in reality, of course, it was canceled. You think them teachers sending work home and the children are sitting and do the work at home? No, I mean, there was more disruption than ever. But I mean, it is part of our obligation as the presidency. So fine, it was done, but don't make it into some sort of say that put me on a pedestal for this and so forth. You're a world boss, or you've been our universe boss. I mean, this is it's all kind of ridiculous. What matters to people is what they're doing with the Montreal garden, the Montreal greenhouse, what they're doing with farming, what they're doing with fisherfolk. Now that Sanders is going to open for full at the end of the month, how are we going to benefit from it? What other projects are there? What's happening with Royal Mill? What's happening with which hotel seems like it's on a go slow? What is happening with the hotel project down at Peters Hope, the Black Sands Development Project? That seems to be has stopped. I mean, those are things that matter to people because they deal with creating jobs. And as you know, our mantra is jobs, 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 because that is what the people want. And not just jobs, but jobs that pay people a wage that they could live, they can save, they can do something to develop themselves with. You find a lot of our young people, our young professionals in particular, they're leaving St. Vincent and going elsewhere because they're getting better paid. They're being better paid in St. Kitts and in Antigua and various places like that, and they're leaving St. Vincent and the Grenadines because we have the lowest wage. So we have to bring that up as well. We have the lowest wages in the Caribbean. We have to bring that up as well. These are things that are critical for our development. And this government, all they're doing is looking for things to brag and boast about and to see which box, you could stand, the taller box you could stand on. Dr. Seuss had a story called Yertle the Turtle. You should read it sometime. And they're always climbing on each other's back to see who can get the highest vantage point. And then what is the point of it? It's really ridiculous for them to say that they are in favor of the development of the people of this country when in fact they have put nothing in place for them to benefit, certainly from the conference here or from more long-term from what's happening with the hotel sector. It's all they're doing is taking out of people's pockets. And we will talk more about that as I address the issue of tourism as part of our continuing discussion of the pillars of the economy, Colin.
All right, let's continue to talk a little bit about that, the economy and the pillars of the economy, because we're quite clear of what the New Democratic Party under your leadership is going to do to strengthen our economy. It was once said that the ULP administration under the leadership of Ralph Gonsalves inherited a bad hand.
Once said by whom? It's only he
I,
says so.
right. So some would say, I would ask the question, do you anticipate that you would also inherit a bad hand, meaning a bad economy from this ULP administration? If you do, many would ask, well, then how do you plan to make something in terms of creating a better economy out of nothing if there will be nothing there for you to generate? How are you going to, the NDP administration, going to generate the funds to turn around and to help build this economy?
Well, Colin, if we had an economy prior to this administration, because we don't have an economy now. I mean, tourism is growing, yes, but it has not grown, certainly not at the rate it should have. Or, yachting declined considerably under this administration. It still hasn't reached back where it was in 2006, 2005. So they still have a lot of work to do there. But they've killed agriculture. They have the offshore sector is dead. There's no real economy. All the government does is borrow and beg, and that can only get you so far. We have to produce things. And the fact that we were doing it prior to this administration means that it can be done again. And so we will have to generate our, that's why we focus on the productive sectors in our 4 pillars of the economy. You'll notice that people say, well, why are you talking about housing? Why are you talking about health? These are services that you provide to people, but you have to have the income to do so. And to generate that, you need the productive sectors to be going. So this is why we focus on the productive sectors: agriculture, tourism, the blue economy, which is fishing, primarily yachting. This is what I will focus on, but there are other components of it, but these are the areas I'll focus on. And the Otley Hall Marine and Shipyard to get our shipping, our ship repair and ship building facility up and running to the level that it should be. And then, of course, all those other areas we consider part of the new economy: sports, providing opportunities for our creatives, our artists. And I had a good conversation with a member from a delegation from Barbados when I was in Trinidad concerning this particular aspect of our economy, what they call the orange economy and so forth, talking about ways in which they have sought to go forward with it there, and giving some insights as to how we can do it here. But these are things that I'm constantly, Colin, trying to find ways to make them work. And the fact that they have not been able to do it, it means that they have not really tried to do it, because they've been trying to find the easy way, which is to always go and beg and borrow, which seems easy because they have the money and the government is in control. They say where to spend it, how to spend it, and who gets the contracts, and what projects to invest in. But the difficult task of, now, it's not even difficult, but for them it's risky, because what it does is it empowers people. Because when you give people the opportunity to make a living for themselves, then they become independent, and they could tell you where to go when you come talk to them if they don't like what they're hearing. But they don't want that, so they want to control. But for us, we are going to revitalize the economy. We're focusing on those 4 pillars, as we have said, and we have had many discussions with people who are prepared to provide assistance, guidance, and also investments in these areas that will help us to take off. But Colin, I have no doubt at all, but given our people, given the opportunity to better themselves, they're like anybody else. Of course they will do it. So we have to create an environment for them to do so, and to have the trust and the faith and the confidence in them, to rely on them to develop themselves, and collectively, by doing so, we develop the country. That is going to be our approach. People must come first. People development is about people. It's not about big shiny objects. Those objects are only important to the extent that they empower people to make their lives better. And that is where we start from. We don't start from the top down, build it and they will come. We say, well, what do we need to do to give these people, our people, more power, meaning their economic power, the capacity to develop their skills and their lands and their resources, so that they can make a better living for themselves. We will
No.
partner with the people in that, and we will turn this country around. St. Vincent and Grenadines has a lot of potential. Tourism, we are just at the beginning stages of that. Agriculture, we must revitalize. We cannot have a country, especially St. Vincent and Grenadines, where agriculture is part of our DNA, is part of our, it's the backbone of our country, our economy. People, we cannot have a country where agriculture is not a central part of our economy, and we will make it happen. I promise you that.
This ULP administration, in the last general elections and the campaign, wanted to belittle the New Democratic Party when they spoke on the Citizen by Investment program. But we saw this program working, as you just mentioned, even in Grenada, in terms of their blue economy and their agriculture and whatnot. You talked about that as one of the ways in terms of which we can generate money and channel it into our economy. Do you still see that as a viable?
Of course, Colin. Look, the point is this: we need capital, we need money for our country in order to develop. The other countries have had this program in place. The world hasn't fallen apart in those countries. In fact, what has happened is that they have used this money to pay down their national debt, to invest in hotel development, in health sector, and Dominica is going to be using it to build an airport, whereas we have accumulated over $600 million in debt for ours. So there is an opportunity there to do so. It is not the end all and the be all for everything, but it is a source of revenue, of capital that we can use for major projects in order to jumpstart our economy and give our people a better opportunity to improve their living, their lives. And you're doing it without debt, without growing the debt. Because here now, everything when you're growing the debt here now, people have to turn around and pay for it, 38 cents out of every dollar now goes to just pay for the interest and the principal on the debt. That's 38 cents out of every dollar. And then you have to pay for lights and pay salaries. And so by the time you're done with that, there was no money left to fix potholes and to put bandages in the hospital and to finance the school feeding program. So, of course, we look for ways in which to raise revenue and to keep taxes down on our people. That is what they have done elsewhere in the region with the CBI program. I see nothing wrong with that. They say, oh, everything will last forever. Well, where is Petrocarib? They took Petrocarib money for 10 years. Where is it now? Where is sugar? Where is banana? Nothing lasts forever. We know that. The point is to use it, to take advantage of it when it's available, and to use it in a way that benefits our people constructively, so that it doesn't become part of a slush fund for people to do their pet projects and other things with, or corruption. Make it so that it's transparent and that it creates an opportunity for us to raise money in order to do things that are capital projects that will help us to jumpstart our economy. That is what we intend to do, and they've done it elsewhere, and I don't see any problem with that. And I think the misrepresentation that they've had over the years about it, people are seeing now that it's a complete nonsense, that they are all doing very well and the ordinary folk are catching hell. They have no way in which to help people with the high cost of living, whereas in St. Kitts, you look and see what the government of St. Kitts gave to its citizens in order to help offset the high cost of living in that country. And a lot of that was done through funds from CBI. Dominica, similarly, other countries. It is a way in which you can help our ordinary people without increasing the tax burden on them. And then you do the other things that are necessary as well. You borrow when it's prudent to do so. You get grants from various friendly governments and multilateral agencies when you can, but you must also make your own way. You have to have an economy that is productive, people who are producing, paying taxes, who are fending for themselves. That's what an economy is. It's not just about begging and borrowing.
All right. Would you say that the NDP under your leadership are more people-focused, people-centered on the real issues as compared to the ULP? And I say that to say, when you take into consideration that the ULP campaigned on no new taxes, but they brought on the customs service charge, the NDP under your leadership said, look, we will revisit that. You also under your leadership said, look, we'll pay close attention to VAT. The
We
student
will
loans.
reduce VAT, more than close attention. We will reduce
And, the,
VAT
and the student
from
loans. Are you
16 to
satisfied that the
13%.
NDP is more people focused as opposed to the ULP?
Well, we know the hardship that people are feeling. Government is not just about looking after government finances, where they could brag and boast, look how much money we have, look how we're building this, we're building that, and so forth. What does all of that matter if the people can't send their children to school? They can't pay their light bill, their water cut off. They have any health issue, they can't go to the hospital, or they go there, they can't buy medicine, and most of the basic medicines are not available. Bandages not available. You're going to the hospital, you have to pack up everything like you're going camping. It's not something that we are going, in this country should put up with. So I believe that the people of this country, they're fed up now with what this government has offered. They have broken their promises. They're not focused on the needs of our people. They're more interested in starting out with projects and then say, well, let me see if it could benefit anybody, rather than starting out and saying, what do we need to benefit our people, and then design the projects in that regard. That's what you got to do. They're doing it the other way around, and that is why so many people are looking and saying, well, where is my piece of the action? How is this going to help me? Why is it not helping me? Why do I have to now look, and the government scrambling to find a way in which to make it happen? I come back to the fisheries complex up at Oya. They built that in 2008, 2009, somewhere around, with money from the Japanese. Over $30 million spent on it. And it's just there doing what? The center of our fishing industry, or fishing selling of seafood products seems to be the facility at Calico. When you had this government facility they spend so much money on. And then you have, of course, the situation that I mentioned with the greenhouse park at Montreal. Again, they build it and they ask themselves, well, what are we going to do with this? They want to hold on to it, to find a way. You can't trust people to say, listen, you have, I don't know how many of them, a dozen greenhouses. If you say it takes two to make it work in terms of the economies of scale for any person to say, look, get one or two to a farmer and let them operate it and so forth and see how it works, and find a formula, or give it to have a cooperative. You say, okay, let's have a farmers co-op and so on. You guys operate this greenhouse and so forth, and you decide what you're going to plant and how you're going to sell it and how you're going to buy your inputs and so forth. And this is something that we can work with. And then you have the marketing of it. You have some marketing agency that we can establish, a modernized agency, not going back to the old marketing board, but have something that is more in tune with the market conditions locally and abroad, and have the efficiencies necessary to help the farmers to market it, because individually they don't have the volume to do it on their own. I had a very fruitful conversation a few months ago with the ambassador from Chile, and he was telling me about how they started out with their winter vegetables and fruit so many years ago, and the winery and so forth, and how they started, and they had to get support from government. Now some of them they're so large and so well established that they shape market conditions now, because they can bargain, because they have done what is necessary to grow them, and they reach a stage now where they can basically decide what prices they get to a certain extent. But we in St. Vincent, we have this talk about transitioning from agriculture, from bananas into other things and so forth. But where is it? There is no real plan to do it. It is just a hit and miss kind of thing. And the Minister of Agriculture, taking photo opportunities from every time he gets one to say that he's going to do this and he's going to do that. And the farmers are left behind. And that has to stop, because if we continue to do that, then of course agriculture will continue on the trajectory it is now, which is down and down and down. And more elephant grass going to be growing all over the country. And farmers would just all migrate into the city looking for jobs that don't exist. We have to turn that around. And these facilities must be used productively to be a part of that process.
All right. We're now at 26 minutes after the 1 o'clock hour. For the remainder of the program now, we'd open up the phone lines for persons who would like to call and engage with the president and leader of the New Democratic Party, Dr. the Honorable Godwin Friday, here with us on the New Times program, live on Nice Radio and live on the New Democratic Party social media platform, Facebook and YouTube. For those of you viewing live with us, we're glad to have you. Like I said, the phone lines are now open. You can call us 456-5967. That's the local number, 456-5967. For those of you in the diaspora, you can reach out to us via the Magic Jack. That number is 718-734-5615. That's 734-5615. If you're on WhatsApp, you can send us a quick message on WhatsApp. That number is 784-498-3802. Again, 784-498-3802. Please feel free to hit us up on the WhatsApp. We'd love to hear from you as well. And like I said, you can reach out to us via the Magic Jack or call us here on the local number. The phone lines are now open so that you can interact with the president and leader of the New Democratic Party. If there are no calls, we will continue with the discussion here and allow Dr. Friday to make his wrap-up remarks on the New Times program. But we await your calls, and like I say, the phone lines are open, so you can feel free to call us now. I think we have a call coming in, so let's take this call and let's see who we have. Caller, welcome to the program. Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, Colin. Good afternoon, Doc.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, and most of good afternoon to the listeners. Doc, I don't know. How long has rainforest been here? You
I don't know. It's a couple of years now, at least.
A couple of years. You remember when we went during the 80s, the thriving fishing trade we had with sending seafood to Martinique and Guadeloupe and so on. And we had lost that, for whatever reason, we had lost that trade. Since rainforest came, you know whether or not we have been able to resume that trade?
No, the trade with let's say the EU really, but it's Martinique. That used to be, out of Beckwith, there was a very good trade there. I know some of the guys who used to do that. But that was stopped because they said that there were infringements of the conditions, the health conditions and so forth. But that is something this government said. They criticized the NDP when they came into office back in 2001.
And you have been there for 23 years.
Yeah, and they have done zilch. They have not been able to reestablish that market, so people had to go elsewhere. And it's to the credit of those people, those individuals who took the initiative to try and find markets elsewhere.
And and when you have a facility like Rainforest, and when you consider all the concessions that you have given it, I thought one of their priority would have been to see if we could reestablish those markets.
Well, wherever they find export markets, it's to be it will be helpful. But the point is that for the ordinary fisher folk, the ones in the Grenadines I know who used to sell a lot of stuff from Martinique, that they have never been able to get that back. And there are persons who have find markets elsewhere in Florida and in other countries, in St. Lucia, but they have not been able to get that market back. And the government has failed to do it. After talking about it, I remember when I first came, I was competing in the 2001 election. And so James was telling me that this is an issue of priority, that we need to deal with it. And they were lambasting the NDP, that is the opposition, carrying on about it. Oh, this and so on. You're going to lose the market and, put us there and we'll get it back. 23 years later, they don't even talk about it. They've just simply abandoned the fishing industry. They abandoned fishermen, fisher folk. And they're trying to take it over now by bringing their own ships for themselves.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
That's their approach. But you're quite right to remind people of that. They have not been able to reestablish those markets in Martinique.
All right. Thank you, caller. Like I said, the phone lines are open, ladies and gentlemen. Please feel free to call at this time. We'll take as many calls as we can. With Dr. Friday here with us live in the studio, you can call and you can interact with him. Raise your questions, your comments, your concern on many of the issues that have been raised here today on the New Times program. Dr. Friday, the way forward you see for the blue economy. Clearly, a lot of our fishing facilities need some work and some improvement. How do you see the way forward? I've heard you NDP talk time and time again about being able to capitalize on the fisheries and deep sea fishing, overnight fishing and trawlers. But stick up in there. We have a call coming. Let's take this call. Priority, let's take the call. Let's see who we have. Caller, welcome to the program. Hello.
Good afternoon, Colin.
Welcome.
Concerning the fish market and access to the European Union market. Well, one of the requirements from the Europeans is that the fish market itself has to be separated from the processing area. That's one of the major concerns of the Europeans. And this government hasn't done anything up to now. And I heard them mention that they're going to do some work, and nothing mentioned about separating the fish market itself from the processing area. Unless we do that, we'll never be able to access the European Union market.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, caller, for that input. There's somebody who knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But Colin, the potential for fishing industry is great. All we need to do is just compare what we have now to what exists in Grenada, for example. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to dream about something that doesn't exist. This is something that they're doing there. They're exporting, 10 times as much as we are in terms of the value of the export commodities. And that is something that we can do here, but we just have not done it. Since 2005, they say they have money to help to expand the fleet. Good Lord. That's almost 20 years and you haven't done a thing, and you still want people to take your word for it? Ridiculous.
All right. We have a call coming in. Let's see who we have on the line. Caller, welcome to the program. All right. Caller, please feel free to call back. Again, those numbers for you to call. You can call us live in the studio, 456-5967. That's 456-5967. You can reach out to us via the Magic Jack, 718-734-5615. We have a call coming in. Let's take this call. Let's see who we have. Caller, welcome to the program. Hello.
I wonder if you go.
All right. Okay. I know where you coming from, and I'm not going to be entertaining your call. We know you are one of the ULP acolytes who call and want to be disruptive on the program. So I'm sorry, but not.
Well, at least he's listening, Colin. Maybe one day something will sink in,
Hopefully. So we're creeping up to that time where we're coming up to the end of the program. We just have another 10 minutes or so here in the program. As we await the calls to come in, let's see who we have. We have another caller. Caller, welcome to the program. Hello.
So far they're talking garbage.
All right. So you see, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So predictable. But it's
Well,
always
Colin, here's this.
when we're on point, that is what happens.
Well, yes. And the point is that we know we're not talking garbage because here's the thing. Over and over again, our proposals, they have stood the test of time, and when they can't resist them anymore, they have to adopt them as their own.
Right.
Case in point. You have a caller?
No. Go ahead.
Case in point. We have been, in the last election, we campaigned to say that we should reduce the student interest rates for student loans so that our young people don't have to mortgage the entire family home or spend a lifetime paying off student debt, to reduce it to 4.5%. In the last budget, at the time when we made the announcement, Ralph Gonzalez said that it was NDP opportunism, that it was unsustainable, that it could not be done. Last budget, they said that they would have a student loan program offering the same rate that we proposed, 4.5%. Of course, we said that it would be the highest that it would be, but it could be lower. If the program that we institute, we can operate it efficiently and they can get 4% interest, 4.25%. Why not? Because the program will be there to benefit students, not to make a profit for government.
Right.
But now all of a sudden they've adopted it and said that, oh, this is something that they will do for young people. Well, what happened in the 23 years that they were there before?
All right. We have another call coming in, this time from the diaspora. Let's see. We have caller. Welcome to the program. Hello.
Good afternoon, Colin. Good afternoon, Dr. Friday.
Good afternoon, caller.
I think Lickard is the best man to run the party. You criticize everything.
All right, so here we go. Here we go. Your usual suspects here on the New Times program. And again, it just goes to show
Colin,
that is what happens.
Here is the problem. These guys, they just simply, they have nothing to say now. And which is really wonderful, because all of a sudden they realize that what we are saying is resonating with people.
But I mean, if you
rather than dealing with the message,
exactly. If you want to be a critic, you can call in and
talking about nonsense. Yeah. We will not be distracted because we are for the people of this country. We are providing opportunities for the people. We're dealing with the interests of the people first. We know because we go around the country, myself, all my colleagues, we go and we talk to people to find out what they're experiencing.
Right.
And what the Minister of Finance presented in his budget last January is far from the reality that people are experiencing on the ground. And so they are all of a sudden they're scrambling now because they say that people are listening to what Friday and the NDP are saying, and what are they going to do? They have
clearly
nothing
it's
to
resonating
counter.
with the
They have
people.
nothing else to offer. They could take some more of our ideas. We say that's fine because it benefits people. But the better thing to do is to put us into office so we could implement them because we believe in them. We know how that they will work.
All right, so the phone lines are still open for persons who want to call and make a real contribution to the program here. For those of you viewing online, the numbers are there, showing up on the bottom of the ticker tape. So please feel free to call and interact. Let's try it again. Let's go back to the phone line and let's see who we have, because we know we have some of them hot today. Welcome to the program. Hello.
You're talking to you.
You see again, there we go. But we know the strategy is to try and tie up the phone lines.
Well,
not have persons
I
calling.
mean, it is so telling, that they have nothing to offer. So what you do is you try and stop the opposition from people hearing, but that is impossible. Social media is too powerful a tool. We are too energetic in that we are walking on the ground, we're talking to people, and we have our program here. They will never stop us from getting our message out.
Let's try
That
again.
is what's
Caller.
worrying.
Hello. Caller, hello, you're live.
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah, I just want to make a contribution to this program. I must say that you guys are doing a wonderful job, and just don't make anyone destroy the truth hurt.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was saying that I just want to make a contribution to this program.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm saying that, you guys are doing a wonderful job. And, as a Vincentian, sometimes I listen to the way some of these people carry on,
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot believe that some of our Vincentian are so backward and stupid. And the Prime Minister said that, some of them go to university and they come back more dotish than how they went. I totally agree with that statement, because you cannot tell me that you have so many intelligent people in this country and you have been one man dictating everything. And as he said, you're muzzled by the food you eat. And I'm saying that if Vincentian don't wake up, as a Vincentian myself who traveled to many communist countries, I see exactly what this man is trying to do to this country. But I am concerned because I have grandchildren coming. I may done dead and gone, but I am concerned about my grandkids, them who will come. And if the way of this country doesn't change, and the only way it's going to change is under the NDP leadership, because I listen to both parties at times, and everything that the NDP says, I am totally agree with them. They are for the people, not the country, the people. And if we people here cannot see that and just wait until when election time come around and they just grab the little things they give them, I'm sorry for them. But we, the right thinking Vincentian, are just waiting till when that bell rings. I know there are many who are not saying anything, but they are waiting in silence for when that day comes. We place our vote, and we know exactly where we're going to place our vote is by the key. You guys have a good one.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. Colin, the fishing industry, as I said earlier, it's tremendous potential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but one of the challenges that we have now is that you have, as a country, we have to have control over our waters.
Right.
And there's been concerns raised, over the years and currently about the other people, other countries, other fishing fleets, boats fishing in our waters. And of course, we have to control that. We have a situation now where we want to expand. We want to be able to get the most we can out of the waters under our control, and we will put an end to that practice where it just seems like it's a free for all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can't have that, and it's a marine resource that we have to manage for our own benefit in terms of getting the catch that we can sell, but also to maintain it so it's sustainable. And if you have this free for all, anybody come in and fish, then we don't have that kind of control as necessary. So that is something that we have to look at as well as part of the development of our blue economy.
All right. As we wrap up on the program now, because we're pretty much out of the end, your final comments for our listeners and viewers today, Dr. Friday.
There's hope, Colin. There's hope in this country. For young people in particular, there is hope in this country. We have launched our National Athletes Development Program, which is a plan that we have put in place to provide support, financial and other support for our elite athletes and for our emerging athletes that are, trying to do the best they can for themselves and for their country. And so we will stand behind them as a party. We put a plan in place to provide assistance for those athletes once they are able to meet a standard that we will set in conjunction with the various organizations in the various sporting disciplines, that they will advise as to what these standards should be. And any athlete who meets those standards will get support from the state. We will encourage the private sector to continue to assist. We will encourage other individuals to continue to assist. But at the very least, the government must take the lead and say, listen, these people have they've proven themselves to be of outstanding ability or potential, and we should stand behind them to make sure that they reach the best they can. This is something that is going to be important for the individual in their development. It's important to our nation in terms of our reputation and name abroad, but also as part of our pillar of our economy, that is the new economy pillar, to develop our sporting facilities, our sporting, our athletes, to give them the best opportunity to make a living at it in whatever discipline they choose. We have the potential to produce outstanding athletes. We're not saying athletes as well. We're not saying I do it every day, but when persons of tremendous talent, such as Shafiq Maloney, come forward and they have the opportunity to excel, then we should make sure that they have everything that we can give them to help to reach the best that they can be. And that benefits all of us. That is a plan that we have put forward. We have announced, and you will hear more about it as we go, and we set the various standards with the various organizations from the disciplines, the different sporting disciplines, and we will put these in place for the benefit of our young people. The young people have a lot to look forward on the New Democratic Party, because we are talking about creating jobs and better paying jobs for young people. We are talking about creating sporting opportunities, support for them. We are talking here about the Youth Guarantee Pledge, which says that if you are not in a job, we will provide training opportunity for you, and we have internship programs so you can get a start in a job. So you help young people to find a place in this economy here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not just leave them to their own devices and say, we give you an education when you want, which is what this government does essentially here now. You know, they say, oh, we have an education revolution, you get an education when you want, it's up to you now. And then they go on and they do whatever else they feel like. We feel that we still have an obligation, because it is important, not just for the individuals, but for the country. A country that doesn't have young people believing in it is a failed country. They're the ones who are going to carry on after us. And so we have to make it so that they feel that they are valued and that they have an important contribution to make. And everything that we can do to make that possible and to make that, give them that belief, we will do it. And last Saturday was one more example of the NDP putting forward the National Athletic Development Program that will help young people to get ahead. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You just heard from the president and leader of the New Democratic Party, Dr. the Honorable Godwin Friday, on another edition of the New Times program today here. Again, I was your host, Colin Graham. I thank you so very much for joining us and being a part of the program. Remember, you can tune in again tomorrow for another edition of the New Times program right here on Nice Radio and, of course, on the New Democratic Party social media platform. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for being a part.